Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. I am back with more Slimline cards in a birthday theme. I'm obsessed with Slimline cards. I've posted so many lately. So for these cards, I am using a little bit of the pattern paper from Honeybee's new Birthday Bash pattern paper pack that I am absolutely in love with and have bought extras and still hoard because, Anyway, I chose this Happy Birthday script paper from the pack and I trimmed it down, and because I'm doing slimline cards, they're 8.5 inches tall, so the pattern paper will not fully cover. I've shown in other videos on my channel like piecing together paper to kind of look seamless, but with this it doesn't matter because I'm going to cover the top portion with balloons, which I'm creating with the Balloon Card Borders Honeycuts dies. So I have just scraps of cardstock that I trimmed to 3.5 inches wide. And then I just kind of layered everything and eyeballed it where I wanted the wafer dies to cut. And I have them taped in place with just some purple tape. And then I ran these through my die cut machine. And then I can remove the dies, and then I've got, you know, what looks like balloons. So since I was in the mood, as always, for a rainbow theme, I decided to do 2 cards. Because these are pretty easy cards to make. And they just, the rainbowness, and why not when I've got all the supplies out anyway. So I did yellow, orange, pink for the one card with the balloons, and the other one I did purple, green, and blue. And then I die cut the little extra pieces from the Balloon Card Borders set from black cardstock. And these are all pieces that are meant to be like the ties and little, like, you can do little tails like I'm showing here. You could just use the little ties and tails that way. You could do it from white cardstock if you want, or whatever. And there's also a little bow wafer die. I ended up deciding to use just the bow. Kind of just depends on what look you're going for. Or you can use like twine or baker's twine, etc. and hand tie. But I know a lot of people struggle with doing bows. I don't mind doing them, but if I was doing like cards like this, I wouldn't want to tie like a bunch of them. So it's kind of nice to have the die cut because I can just run that through, glue it in place, and it's done. So that's what I did. So I've got all my little bows, and then I'm just going to stagger these balloon die cuts together, and I'm just going to adhere them all together with some Craft Tacky adhesive. You could pop these up with foam tape as well, give them a bunch of dimension. Like, there's so many options, but I kind of kept them a little more simple, but I'm still going to pop the finished ones up with a bit of foam tape. Again, just for that little extra bit of dimension. So I adhered all the balloons together and then adhered all those little die cut bows to each of the balloon knots. And then for the sentiments, I'm using the Party Honeycuts dies. And I did the same thing. I was using up a whole bunch of scraps. This is why I keep all of my scraps. And in the same colors for these wafer dies. So like the majority of Honeybee's sentiment wafer dies, there's the word, which here is the pink. And then there's the outline, which is the orange. And then there's a second outline that has, you know, piercing detail. So you could use just the word, stack that a few times. You can use the word and the outline, or you can use all 3 together. And that's what I did for these. So I did the pink, orange, yellow for one, and then the purple and blue and green for the other. So that way each card gets all the colors, you know, full rainbow. So I adhered all those together with more Craft Tacky glue. And then to make it a sentiment, I'm using the Companion Party stamp set, which also is like a really good one for if you want to do like invitation cards, because it's like you're invited, let's celebrate. You have the RSVP, etc. info. But I just took the let's word and I put it on an acrylic block, and I'm going to stamp this onto just a scrap of black cardstock with some clear embossing ink. So I use my anti-static powder tool first, and then I'm going to stamp this twice. Just, my hair is kind of getting in the way here, but I was trying very hard to make sure I got them both lined up because it just makes it easier when I trim this down. So I stamped those twice onto the black cardstock, and then I'm going to coat this with some detail white embossing powder. And then I'm going to melt this with my heat tool. And once everything is smooth and melted and had a couple seconds to cool off, I can trim that down into a strip with my paper trimmer, and then I can trim off each word individually. So then I've got let's party, and then the pattern paper says happy birthday. So it just kind of ties it all, you know, together. So for my card bases, they were cut to 7 inches by 8.5 inches. So I'm scoring them at 3 inches. So this will make a 3.5 inch by 8.5 inch slimline card. So I'm just lining this up in my little score buddy here and scoring it at 3.5 inches with my Teflon bone folder. And then really making sure to get that crease good and pressed down. So then these will be portrait style slimline cards. So I've got that, and then I've got the happy birthday pattern paper, and I trimmed that down to 3.5 inches as well. So it's 3.5 by 6 inches because it was 6 by 6 inch pattern paper. So I just save the excess with the package so that next time I've got a good size little chunk of that happy birthday paper to use on a future card. So I'm going to adhere the pattern paper to the bottom of those cards. And then on the inside, I took this little like confetti pattern paper from the pack and I just trimmed that down. I actually cut it in half and then trimmed it down. So I've got 2 little pieces that are like 3 inches by 3.5 inches or whatever. And just adhere to the bottom. So it kind of looks out of place at the moment, but I'm going to take care of that. I stamped and heat embossed sentiments just from the little birthday stamp set, and just lined up some of the words from it to say make a wish. So I'd lined those up on my grid mat and then just white heat embossed them onto black cardstock again, trim that down, and I've got both pieces, and I'm going to adhere that to like the top portion of the pattern paper there just to like finish it off. So I have those trimmed down, so I'm going to adhere those into place, and just like the pattern paper on the inside, I butt it up against the spine of the card, and I kind of start closing the card a bit because you don't want to adhere on top of that, because then your card's not going to close, or it's going to start bending over and everything's going to look weird. So I got everything adhered, and then I just kept flipping over the card base and just trimming off that excess with my scissors. And then once that's done, I can now adhere those balloons. I'd already coated the back of them with foam tape. So I'm going to line that up along the top of the card. So that's going to cover up that blank space where the pattern paper ends. So then I've got the balloons on the top of the cards. And then I'm going to adhere the big party die cut sentiment with more foam tape. And I used the opposite one for each one. So again, got all the rainbow colors. And then the sentiment, I'm going to just adhere the Let's, like the heat embossed sentiment, I'm going to adhere just with some craft tacky adhesive. And as always, you could leave it here. I added a little bit of embellishment, nothing too crazy. But again, you could really go all out with cards like this. I was thinking like a bunch of bling. The sky's the limit. But I just grabbed some little clay, like rainbow confetti pieces for my stash because just the colors kind of went well. And it just went nicely with the die cut cardstock. So I just kind of sprinkled these throughout these cards and then adhered them into place with dabs of the craft tacky adhesive and my embellishment wand. So once I get all of these adhered, these cards are finished. And something I was thinking about when I was making these, I was like, because these cards are really great to fit in business-sized envelopes. You can make your own envelopes, but business-sized envelopes work great too. But another good thing about these is it'd be perfect if you got like whoever you're giving a card like this to get some crisp new money. You don't have to fold it up because they'll fit perfectly, and because there's nothing better, especially for kids. I think like so often it's like, ooh, money. So that's kind of a nice option too with cards like this, is you can stick it in without having to like roll them up or fold them up or do anything weird. It'll just fit nicely right inside the card. So that's it for today. As always, there'll be a link below the video to the blog post. There'll be supplies and links and all that good stuff. So check it out below if you're interested. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye!